we're the Better Turn Girls. I'm Leslie.
I'm Berlin.
And I'm Bethany.
And welcome to our podcast, Two Baptists and That Amish Chick, where we are talking all things about organized religion, how we came out of it, and how we still held on to our faith in God. So we're going to share funny stories, crazy stories, sad stories. We're going to share it all and help other people, because deconstructing faith is such a big topic. We want to share how you don't have to abandon it all, right? That God is still God and we can still hold on to him, and the whole, like, there's still goodness there. We don't have to abandon everything, because we had that option, right? But we chose to push forward and actually form a relationship. So that's really where the heart of this podcast is coming from, is our desire for other people to kind of walk a similar journey of, hey, the religion didn't serve us either. We get it, we feel you, we relate, and there's better options, right?
Sure. Yes. We want to share in the process too of kind of where we're at now. We're called Two Baptists and That Amish Chick, but we're actually two ex-Baptists and an ex-Amish girl, right? That isn't us at all anymore. But we want to share kind of where we were, because we think you guys are going to relate to it, right? But then we also want to share kind of where we are now in our journey in it and where we're continuing on from, because we've all gone through so many really cool, interesting processes. For me, myself, I looked into other faiths and stuff. I was looking into all kinds of just wild things to be like, this isn't this doesn't feel like what it should feel like, right? This doesn't feel like God and where I'm living, and it feels, there's no freedom in it. I don't feel closeness. There's more.
Absolutely.
So we're going to dive into that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. And even for myself, leaving the Amish, the religion, because religion is, man's way to God. They try to work their way to God, and that's not the way it works, right? And so you and God is a relationship. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2, and if you don't do that, then you're kicked out. And honestly, when I left the Amish culture, I was like, I don't even know if I believe in God. There was a moment in my life that I was like, I don't even know if I believe, because I realized that so many of the things I was taught was just plain bullshit and people's lies and manipulation. There's an agenda behind everything. I was like, okay, well, is God just a big agenda?
Right.
Is he just something that somebody made up? And I really had to, we'll talk about this later, where I go into my story of how I actually tested God and was like, I don't even know if you're real, and I need you to do some things. So
I resonate with that so much, because I had actually gotten to a place where I was diving into I was like, let's look at crystal healing. Let's look at reading books on Buddhism and things like that, because I was like, there seems to be so much more peace there. There's not rules. There's just peace and joy, and the monks seem to have peace, right? For real, I don't want to be a monk, but there's something there that
peace.
But if there's peace and it's not full of rules and condemnation and all of those things. And then I had a piece, you said, religion is man trying to get to God. I grew up in a world where they constantly voice, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. It's not a religion, it's a relationship. But now I look back and, the things that they called relationship were circumstantial rules. Yes. Yeah. So it wasn't actually a relationship. So it's taking something and giving it a different name, which as a kid, you're it's like looking at someone who's super cocky and your parents being like, look at that humble man. You're confused on what it means, right? You have the wrong example of the definition of something.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot going through that process too. That was super influential, and so we're going to talk about things like that on here.
And a lot of like she said, I think you said this, of hot topic things in Christianity today, because there's a lot of people who are I don't even know if I believe there's a God, right? Yeah. There's a lot of deconstructing happening.
Rightfully so.
And rightfully so.
Right?
There's been so much manipulation and lies that have been fed into, God and Christian culture, and even Baptist and Amish and all of these
Methodist and Lutheran and Catholic and all the things.
Yeah, for sure. And while you're deconstructing, you also want to construct something else in its place. Because if you just deconstruct,
it's just a void.
There's just a big black hole, and there's nothing, and that's where hopelessness and depression and fear and I don't want to live anymore comes in, because we were made to have a purpose, to believe in something, right? It's just that thing has gotten so skewed because of people's need for power, for control, because fear, hey, we need to make sure people are scared enough so that they do the right thing. Which is just dumb because we're made to be loved. Like, love is the opposite of fear. And so, anyway, yeah.
So, I mean, I think we're taking what used to be for us, like, a Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, or whatever night, right? There was always something going on at the church.
Friday night, Saturday night.
We're taking those things that were checklists for those times, and how does it, one, work all the other days and times of the week? How does it work in our businesses and our companies and different, like, in our relationships with each other, with other people? Like, how does this, our deconstruction, for lack of a better term.
That's what it is.
It was, yeah. How did that deconstruction and reconstruction affect the way we've moved forward? Yes. And how it even brought us to here, to starting this podcast.
Right.
Where we literally share all the things in all the real, raw ways. So we're going to cuss a little. We're going to tell it like it is. We're going to talk straight. You know, we're not going to hide things and pretend the way we've experienced it growing up.
Right.
We experienced way too much pretending, and that's exactly why we all went, this is bullshit, and we're out. Like, that's why we were like, if that's what it is, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And we get it. We relate to that so much.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is what we are bringing through this platform, through this podcast. And we are so honored and excited to have you join us with this journey. And we look forward to speaking to you every week.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we hope that through this you guys get a great reflection too, and kind of can dive deeper into what this means for you, because maybe you're in a place where you're like, no, I've been in my same faith forever and I know who God is, but maybe there's other pieces that he wants to like throw at you and be like, look at this cool piece of me.
Right.
And maybe you're like, I don't know if God, like Bethany said, I don't even know if God's even real. And so maybe it's going to be this place where you're like, hey, maybe he is, and it just looks completely different than what it looked like. So we hope that you relate to that, and that you can find some healing for yourself through it, that you can find some connection through it, and just some relatability, because I think these things need to be talked about more, and that's what we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, and honestly, if you guys have anything that you'd like to hear our like take on, perspective, what we've learned, right? Any topic, you're like, hey, can you talk about this? Just leave it in comments on social media or YouTube, even in the podcast itself, you know, comment on that. And because this is the thing, like, it's not just us talking about what now that we've learned, like our experiences and the things we've learned, but it's also, we want to open this up for you to feel like you're part of the conversation and the discussion. And if we don't know, we don't know. Like, it's okay, because we are all on a journey of figuring it out, right? So, yeah, we're not claiming to know it all just because we have a podcast.
Yeah. Not at all. We know our experience, and we have a really amazing community where we can share stories and glean and learn more. And I think that's part of it. And it was actually something Bethany shared on social media the other day. Like, it's not what to think, it's how to think. So we want to be thought-provoking. So if things kind of poke buttons, we're not attacking you. It's not personal, right? No. I get it. I've been there. Yeah. But it's not an attack. It's not personal. It's an opportunity to think and actually have a conversation, which is the foundation of a relationship with God. Yeah. So I'm excited for you guys to come along this journey with us, because we're growing through this thing too. And so we're excited that you're coming along with us.